there, Co-Mayor Alexa. What are you up to?
The question is, what are you supposed to be? And why?
Well, since today's figure review is of the brand new SummerSlam Elite Sensational Sherri, I wanted to dress up as Rick the Model Martel and what he wore on his entrance on that night in the match that Sensational Sherri was involved in SummerSlam 1992. That was a great match. To be honest with you, I was going to dress up as Shawn Michaels, but your boy and assless chaps, they don't really work out.
Gross, but what you're wearing now is just as bad. I feel like I'm seeing things I'm not supposed to see.
Oh, wait. Can you see my balls?
Excuse me?
Yeah. My tennis balls. Can you see them? They're supposed to be hidden, to be honest with you. I'm supposed to have this, secret pocket they go into. You're not supposed to see them.
I was going to say seeing you in shorts that small was what I'm not meant to see. But either way, it's not a pretty sight.
Well, dang, that's not very nice. But you know what? You can call me Mayor, the Model, Aaron. Because I'll have you know I am an aspiring model. Now, I knew you'd be skeptical, so I had Tamina's put together a video montage of some of my best studio shots. Check it out. Yeah! What'd you think?
That was disturbing. Do me a favor, and never show anyone this. Hey, what are you doing? Stop it.
Oh, I just sprayed you with some of my arrogance. It's my special fragrance that's supposed to...
Make my face burn?
No, not exactly. It's supposed to make you all sweet and infatuated with me and whatnot.
Oh no, it's in my eyes. I can't see. I can't see. Mayor Aaron, what did you do?
Oh, God, yeah, I'm just gonna... Okay, put that... Okay, yeah, okay, I'm gonna... Pew! Hey y'all, welcome to LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. And welcome to today's very exciting review of the brand new WWE SummerSlam Elite Sensational Sherri. So I've been excited to review this figure since I saw images of it online. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at this figure, starting out with the unique packaging. Alright, so starting off with the packaging here, like I just mentioned, it is very unique. And that's what I really love about these certain lines, whether it be the WrestleMania Elites, or the Survivor Series Elites, or here the SummerSlam Elites. I love how the packaging is different than the mainline Elites. Now, doing a little side-by-side comparison here, on the right we have Elite Series 93, Raquel Gonzalez. And this is that new style packaging that we've seen since Elite Series 89. And it's that black and blue theme. And obviously on the SummerSlam, we get like a purplish blue and an orange. But yeah, so the color is obviously the main difference here, with a little bit more design patterns going on as far as the aesthetics go. But the box quality itself is the same as far as feel. It does feel like a pretty flimsy cardboard, but it looks cool, right? And I have to say that I don't think there's any woman in my collection that has two better looking MOC figures. I mean, these two MOC are just beautiful. But that aside here, let's take a closer look at the packaging, which is what we are here to do. So obviously, like I mentioned, the color choices are different. We have like a, I want to say purplish type blue. Remember, I'm colorblind. In the upper corner here, with blue on the side, and then we have like this orange and red type pattern along the side there. We have a nice image of Sensational Sherri from SummerSlam 1992. And unfortunately, we do have this Build-A-Figure Dominic Mysterio 2005 on the front. That does kind of take away from the figure's MOC display. But I am going to say the good thing about this is they hid Dominic's legs behind this image of Sherri, so that's not noticeable, which is so awesome, because if you go back to that WrestleMania Elite China and we had Rocco sitting in the package, it was awkward, it was weird, and this would have looked weird if the legs were visible, so at least the legs are hidden behind that image of Sherri, but still, this is kind of an eyesore here. Moving on to the side of the package, we have her name, Sensational Sherri, there in a really cool font, and we have this little, like, multi-toned pink line going up the side with the SummerSlam logo. And on the back here, we have a little bio of Sherri here, and we have her career highlights, and just a little paragraph about her. And then we have the rest of the SummerSlam line. And then on this part of the box, it just tells you what part of Dominic comes with Sherri here, which is the legs. So let's open it up and see how hard it is to open up here. So let's get the corner. There's just tape. I should have had my scissors handy. Now, I do have two coming that are, one's going to be MOC and a protector, and the other one I'm going to do a giveaway. So stay tuned to LumberJillville's Instagram and also the YouTube channel, and I will talk about how y'all can have a chance to win this. Oh boy, this is just, you know, I'm massacring this box. So, again, this is not going to be kept MOC, so don't hate me. And there we go. Now let me get her out, and let's take a closer look. WWE SummerSlam Elite Sensational Sherri. This attire is from SummerSlam 1992, which took place at Wembley Stadium in London, England. It was taped on August 29th, but aired on August 31st of 92. On this night, Sherri was torn between the two competitors, where Shawn Michaels and Rick Martel had a stipulation in their match that prevented them from hitting each other in the face. This match ended in a double countout due to Sherri's antics. If you're unfamiliar with Sherri, this is a must-watch segment because it shows how amazing she was as a manager, and it's one of the most entertaining segments in WWF history. Alright, some overall first impressions of this figure. I'm going to be honest, I'm almost at a loss of words for the first time on the channel. I've been really lucky here in LumberJillville because the last few women's wrestling figures I've reviewed have been absolutely amazing, and this one's no different, but this one almost leaves me speechless because this is like a little work of art. I mean, it's amazing. Y'all have to see it in person. Now, I am going to give y'all an up-close look, and we're going to look at it together and see what makes this figure so awesome. But for now, let's cover the accessories, and then we'll break down the figure. So the only accessories she really comes with are these semi-grasping C-grip hands that you can switch out with the closed fist that she comes packaged with. Now, she does come with Dominic Mysterio, little baby Dominic Mysterio's legs that have good articulation in case you're wondering. But, yeah. Anyway, let's dive in and look at the details of this figure, starting with that head sculpt and face scan. Alright, so taking a closer look at this head sculpt and face scan, I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of detail that they put into this, and they really did do Sherri justice. Now, unfortunately, we did lose her all the way back in 2007, but the fact that they can make a figure with the likeness as spot on as this Sherri so many years after her passing is tremendous, and it's a true testament of the work that they do over at Mattel. So starting off with this hair sculpt, I mean, this is probably the most fun hair sculpt I've ever reviewed here in LumberJillville. Very accurate to that night. It's very unique to her, obviously, on that occasion. It's sculpted beautifully all the way around and really does stand out. Now, what else stands out is all the detail they put into her face. So she did have very intricate face paint type makeup applied that night, and they included it all. I think the only thing that they didn't really include is the little nose ring type thing she had, but that'd be hard to include, and if they painted that on, it'd look like a booger or something. So I think they did as good as they could with what they had. We have the SS on that right cheek. We have that design next to her eye. On the other side, we have that design. Then we have little teardrops going down to the heart. And even the eyebrows, they even included the little detail of the little silverish white type line that she had under her eyebrow on that night. And then around her eyes themselves, it's a real dark color kind of applied there. So, yeah, I mean, I can't stress enough, like, the extra mile that they went for this face scan is just tremendous, and it's not unnoticed, at least not by me. Now let's take a closer look at the attire. Alright, so the extreme attention to detail doesn't just stop at the face and the head sculpt, it goes all the way down to the attire in the body, and wow. So there's a lot of sculpting going on in this figure. And let's start off with that upper body here. So around her neck, she has a sculpted choker type necklace, which is included as part of her top, with these white straps that come down. Now, I thought these white straps were just painted, but if you feel them, you can actually feel that they were sculpted on there, which is a nice touch they didn't have to do, but they did, and it makes it all the more realistic. Moving on down to the rest of the top here, we have this golden molded piece that goes around the top of her chest there, and it goes all the way around with a nice little texture molded in there, and then we even have these little tassels that are molded down. And even this red little jewel type piece is a separate molded piece. And then we have little red dots painted on throughout. Now, moving on down to her torso and midsection, what's really awesome is this isn't just a generic Victoria's Secret body paint, bare midriff. This is actually a unique molded midsection here that is so spot on and so awesome that they did that, because we know with these women's elite, sometimes they just skimp and they just paint over a bare midriff. Look at Elite 88 Trish, for example. But here they did do it justice, and it has little folds molded on, and it even has little creases that was on the material molded on. So that's excellent. Now, before we get to the bottom here, let's look at the arms. So this is a thick plastic piece that's molded on. It's not like a thin rubber piece, which I thought might be the route they go, but it is a hard molded piece here. And that's nice for that upper arm. But if you move down to the rest of the arm there, it's kind of molded with that plastic piece, if that makes sense. So it's a little bizarre because they have like the flesh color paint in that hole in the top. And when you come down here, the skin is just molded on there and painted tan. So that is kind of weird, but I mean, it definitely took some designing to make this look good. I'm thinking they could have just kept a plain, normal arm underneath and just made it separate, like rubber pieces that would go on. I think that might have looked better. But either way, the attention to detail is great and all the effort that went into it. And these little hearts are molded little circles with a gold border. And like I mentioned, the only kind of bizarre thing is that flesh is painted onto that sleeve type pattern. So that looks a little bizarre. But either way, it does work well. Moving on to the bottom here. Now let's start off with what everyone's wondering. So on that SummerSlam 1992, she had a very exposed backside, right? Very exposed backside here. And obviously, Mattel's a kid-friendly company, and they did cover it up. They left a little cheek there. So it's not completely, censored, but it is a lot more censored than what she actually wore on that night. And I totally understand why they did that in the reasoning, obviously. And it really doesn't take away from the figure, in my opinion. So starting off with that backside there, it does have sculpted tights. Not just painted on, but sculpted, with a little tassel in the middle, a little jewel, and this border around here is even sculpted. Like, I can't stress enough how much molding and sculpting went into this. Like, whatever team worked on this figure put a lot of hours into it, and that's pretty awesome. And even if you look at where that bare skin would be with that, like, mesh type pattern, that mesh is painted on very cleanly, very intricate, and looks great. And even if you move the leg around, you can see that that mesh continues to be painted on there. Now, looking at the sides of the legs, we once again have those molded heart patterns that we kind of saw in the upper body there, with that flesh color painted underneath and that white mesh on top, with once again a lot of little molding detail. Same thing on the other side. And then on the front here, we have those tights underneath with, once again, nice little molding going around the top all the way down. And we have that white mesh on top of the flesh colored paint, and it is all over the place, so it does look really good. Moving on down her legs here, these bottoms or these pants here are kind of cut off, but they're molded in a nice way to make them look really accurate. And that's interesting. We have like the trademark stamp there on the leg rather than the foot, but that's because she is wearing these really cool heels. I mean, these are unique. I think it's the first time we've gotten these in a women's elite line. Molded on laces, molded on strap, and yes, they're heels. So let's do the Brandy Rhodes test, as I call it, and see if we can get her to stand without the display stand. Okay, we can, and that's underneath this blue backdrop, which I did choose because the white wasn't a contrast enough, but she does stand with these heels, so that's pretty awesome, but I am probably going to display her with a stand. Oop, there she goes. But yeah, so the attention to detail and the sculpting and molding that went into this attire is unbelievable. I mean, they spent so much time making this figure look as accurate as possible, and I absolutely love it. I do think the arm, it's a little bizarre how it's so thick up top here to where we can see that shoulder underneath. And then as we go down, the flesh is just painted on there, if that makes sense. I guess you'd have to see it in person to understand what I'm saying. But it doesn't inhibit the range of motion at all, which we will cover next. All right, so now let's cover articulation and see how good she moves in this very detailed, intricate attire here. Now, starting off with her head, she can't really look up too well, and she can't really look down too well, but she can look right good, she can look left good. And even though her head is on a ball joint, it really doesn't move in that manner. The shoulder is on a ball joint, can move in all different directions, is not inhibited by the sleeve here. She also has an upper arm swivel. Her elbow is double jointed, so she can really flex it great there, even with this sleeve. Her wrist can spin, rotate, it can extend okay, and it can flex down okay. This upper torso can flex down. It can also extend back really good. She can also side bend a little bit side to side. Her waist has a swivel joint there. Her thigh is on a ball joint, and it can move in all different directions. The only way it's really inhibited is it can't really go back too far, but that's because of the detail that they included on the cheek there, I guess you could say. She has the upper thigh swivel. Her knee is double jointed, so she can really flex that thing back. That's pretty awesome. She has, let's see if she can swivel at her ankle there. Okay, so she doesn't have the upper boot swivel that we see, or the upper, shin swivel. But with her heels on here, she can planar flex, she can dorsiflex, and they don't rock side to side, but not having that boot swivel and not having the ability to rock the foot actually probably makes this a lot more firm and a lot easier to stand wearing these heels. So yeah, the articulation is surprisingly really good, even with all this detail in her attire. So next I wanted to do a little comparison here, but in this case it's not really a comparison, it's to simply show you how awesome Sensational Sherri's two elites released by Mattel really are. So obviously on the left we have that SummerSlam elite we're covering today, and on the right we have that Elite Series 65, and that figure's also a work of art. I mean, they put so much effort and attention to detail in this Elite 65. I did review it for Women's History Month last month. So go check that out if you want to see an in-depth, up-close look at this figure. But yeah, this thing's awesome. Underneath the robe here, she's in her wrestling attire. So yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's almost a loss of words here because Sensational Sherri has had two really amazing elites, and she really did do so much for women in professional wrestling that it's really nice that they did do her justice and give her two excellent figures. So usually this part of the video, I tell y'all which one's better, but that's a really, really, really tough call. I would say that the SummerSlam Elite is a lot more accessible, and you can get it right now on ringsidecollectibles.com. Use code LJV to send 10%. Cheap plug, I know, but you can get it for a really good price right now, so I would go out and get that because this Elite 65 might be a little tricky to get for a good price. So if you don't have a Sherri in your collection, I would 100% say go out and get the SummerSlam one, and eventually if you find this Elite 65 for the right price, you get that too. Because these two figures kind of embody what LumberJillville is all about, these strong, amazing women that really did so much for an industry that didn't really respect the women and whatnot. And things have changed over the years, but women like Sherri Martel made that possible in 2023. So we love you, Sherri, and I love your figures. And here's one last look at WWE SummerSlam Elite Series Sensational Sherri. Alright, so now it's time to give this figure an overall score. And to be honest with y'all, I've been going beyond my score of 10 out of 10 recently. As of late, I had the Thunder Rosa from Unrivaled Series 9 getting 11.5 out of 10. And that's a tremendous figure, but I think I need to step back a little bit and make it a little more difficult to break my scale of 10 out of 10. Now, with that being said, I give WWE SummerSlam Elite Sensational Sherri an overall score of a platinum 10 out of 10. Did I want to give this figure beyond the 10 out of 10 score? Abso-freaking-lutely I did, because this figure is a tremendous work of art. Now, this is a bold statement, but I honestly think this is the best Women's Elite I have ever reviewed in LumberJillville. Now, I have had figures in the past get better scores than this, or the same, but the attention to detail that went into this figure is amazing. Now, that Ultimate Edition Alexa Bliss, I still see that as the best figure I've ever reviewed in LumberJillville, but that is an Ultimate Edition, keep in mind. It has about $10 higher price point. So as far as Elites go, this Sensational Sherri is mind-blowing with how much attention to detail, sculpting, molding went into this figure, and the likeness is tremendous. But Sherri's such an important part of women's wrestling, and she really did do a lot. And unfortunately, we did lose her way back in 2007, so it's still nice to have her memory remain and for them to continue her legacy by releasing, merchandise and awesome figures like this one. So like I mentioned before, I highly suggest you add this to your collection. It's a beautiful figure. It's a complete work of art. Left me speechless for the first time on my channel, honestly. I had to record that one scene because I kept stuttering because it's just an amazing figure to look at. So head on over to ringsidecollectibles.com. Use code LJV to save 10% and get this figure because it's beautiful, honestly. Thanks for stopping by LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. For a first look at all future women's wrestling figures, make sure to hit subscribe and become an official resident of LJV today. Like I mentioned before, when you order from ringsidecollectibles.com, use code LJV to save 10% on your order. Also, head on over to Pro Wrestling Tees to check out LumberJillville's merchandise, including this shirt. Now, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's review, and I hope you all have a great night.